20 Summers. I must start this film with a confession. I do not know what it is about. I do not know if it will be finished, if it will ever play for an audience. I only know that it has a beginning, middle, and end. My hope is that, if I start at the beginning, it will lead me to the rest. My hope is that, by the end of it, you will know more than me. My film begins in a small room on St. Mark's Place. Its walls are white, the spots left by killed cockroaches having been painted over. It is here that I make my nest alongside the bugs. I moved in last summer, and by now the walls need another whitewashing. Today begins as all days with the blast of an electronic alarm, the fumbling at the cord of the lamp, the scattering of the roaches. 3 capsules of fluoxetine, 1 tablet of herbazole, then the table is set for tea. At 7, the grocery store will open, and I will go to get some breakfast. By 8, I get to work. I sit in the studio and I work on the text for this film. I've brought a few things with me. An acorn, a squirrel's skull, the shell of a snail, and a small piece of coal. They sit on my desk for inspiration. If I stare at them long enough, I wonder if they will come alive. No. The squirrel is dead, the shell is just a shell, the acorn hasn't been born, and whatever the coal used to be is lost in prehistory. I guess I'm left to my own devices. This is my 2nd year in New York. It will be my 2nd summer. Only a thin skin separates me from my summers past, a matter of years and 70 miles of coast. On the scale of the universe, that's not much of anything. On April 17th, 1967, Surveyor 3 was launched from Cape Canaveral aboard an Atlas Centaur rocket system. It arrived at the moon 3 days later and landed. It sat quietly at the bottom of a crater for the next 2 years, having sent some data back to Earth. On August 21st, 2022, the Metro North pulled out of New Haven. It arrived at Grand Central a short while later and deposited hundreds of people. 2 years after that, one of them started making this film. Time in a film is malleable. A few lines ago, I was writing this text at the studio in New York, but now it is being written on the floor of a house in Connecticut, much closer in space to my summers past, but slightly further from them in time. The shell, the skull, the coal, and the acorn return to my mind. I set them before me on the floor for inspiration. If I stare at them long enough, maybe they will come alive. If they could, I bet they'd march away from here. This town makes me too damn ruminative. I marched away 2 years ago, and though I'm here again in space, nothing can compel me to march back. New York is too damn a lot of things, but it's too damn busy to allow for rumination. When I was young, I had a yellow cat. It followed me down the street when I left for school and watched me from the corner. When I came home, I laid in the grass with that cat and did my homework. In fair weather, I always remember that cat, and I have only good feelings. When I was a little older, I knew a girl with orange hair. She was fond of the crocuses in our backyard. When I was a teenager, I had a red shovel. I used it to bury the mice the cat killed, to bury crocus bulbs in front of the girl's house, and later to bury the cat. Every time I use that shovel, it sheds some chips of paint into the dirt. It brings back bad memories. Sometimes the moon is copper-colored during an eclipse. Sometimes it is a deeper red. It depends on the conditions of the Earth's atmosphere. Betelgeuse, the red giant, would appear white to the human eye at close range because we are not designed to behold such intensity. Maybe that's science's proof that God exists. If Jesus were alive today, God would have made him a New Yorker. If the devil exists, he surely comes from Connecticut. On November 17, 1969, Charles Conrad Jr. and Alan L. Bean stepped out of the lunar module Intrepid and traveled by foot the rest of the way to Surveyor Crater. They found the probe at its bottom, took some souvenirs, and left. The next day, they started back towards Earth. Surveyor 3 and the footprints surrounding it will remain undisturbed by natural forces for an estimated 6 million years. On March 16, 2024, I sat on the floor of a house in Connecticut and listened over and over again to the same cassette tape. The end of part 1. I have started at the beginning, and it has led me, if not to something, then to somewhere. It occurs to me that the film I am making may be a film about the making of a film that will never be made. But I am only at the middle and cannot stop myself now. My film resumes in a long metal box speeding south along a railway. In 2 hours, it will reach the end of the line. It could go faster, but the tracks are old and curvy and cannot be rebuilt because they go through all the wealthy suburbs which encircle New York from a safe distance. Today continues as many days have, the next 2 hours punctuated by an electronic voice calling out the names of towns that were deemed important enough to build a train station there. My town station did not open until the summer of 2013, and is the youngest one on the route. I have the skull, the shell, the coal, and the acorn in my pocket. I would take them out, if only by staring at them I could make them come to life. My first summer in New York was my 20th summer. My 20th summer was the first summer after I marched away. The next summer looms. I will never again have 20 summers. It will never again be my first summer, second summer, third summer, fourth summer, fifth summer, sixth summer, seventh summer, 8th summer, 9th summer, 10th summer, 11th summer, 12th summer, 13th summer, 14th summer, 15th summer, 16th summer, 17th summer, 18th summer, 19th summer. My 20 summers are over. Like a 20-volume set of books in which I have read every word once, I have lived every moment. Some of the volumes have been lost, and I cannot find them on eBay. The ones that remain are out of order. I only have a vague memory of the shapes on the page when I reread some parts of the text in my mind. Others I have entirely forgotten, as if I never read them. Still others are seared in my memory with such vividness that I cannot sort out which parts are from the canon and which are only epic-rifle. Like that summer when we drove to California. When I left I was pale, clutching my yellow blanket. I came back with scrapes on my knees, wearing a coonskin hat and having almost seen Bigfoot. I do not have a driver's license. My learner's permit expired in the summer of 2023. But by walking from home to Connecticut's youngest train station, taking the train to Grand Central, taking the 6 downtown, then taking a short walk down St. Mark's Place, I am able to travel all the way to my small white room. There was a certain half-block route along 3 streets in my hometown that I must have walked 10,000 times. 4th Avenue to Elm Street, then down Union Ave. Union, Elm, back to 4th again. I have no reason to walk that route anymore, though I pass those streets on my way to the station. It must have been lonely for Surveyor 3 at the bottom of that crater. At least now it has the footprints beside it to keep it company for the next 6 million years. I left behind no footprints in the concrete sidewalk on Union Avenue. I did, however, where I walked once between the redwoods, wearing a coonskin cap and dragging behind me my yellow blanket. I noticed while I was home that my elementary school had been torn down. While I was a student there, we celebrated that building's 100th anniversary. Last year, there was an open house for the community to say farewell. I wanted to go, but I had class that day in New York. Not even the playground remains, nor the weeping willow tree. That school had sat vacant for almost 10 years. I broke in when I was 15. In the basement, I found a book of erotic cartoons. In the dust were thousands of footprints. Beetlejuice, the red giant, could explode any minute. On March 23, 2024, I sat in a long metal box speeding south and listened over and over again to the same cassette tape. The end of part 2. At the studio in New York, I draw the acorn, the squirrel skull, the shell, and the coal in blue ballpoint pen. I always carry a blue ballpoint pen. I buy a new pack every month at the drugstore. I keep the spent skeletons in a drawer. If I stare at the drawings long enough, I wonder if they will come alive. Then it occurs to me, why did I draw these objects if not to make them come alive? But I remember, I am an observer, not an illustrator, so I go back to staring. Then I go back to writing in blue ballpoint pen. 10 big crystals can go for not much more than $1. The other day on 5th Avenue, I looked through the window of a pen store at a ballpointed instrument for sale for $135. I wondered if it only writes $135 words. I must keep writing if my 10-cent words are going to add to anything comparable. The other day, also, I noticed the proximity of two very different buildings. St. Patrick's Cathedral is right across the street from the Lego store. I went in, and sure enough, bright yellow shopping bags were in the queues. New York is too damn a lot of things, and among them Fifth Avenue is too damn dense. In a while, it will be time for my film to end. If you're sad it's over, you can play it again. That is the beauty of film. You can relive it. The moments are pinned down like beetles to a piece of foam. You can admire them over and over, holding them in the palm of your hand. You can listen to the words of this text as many times as you like. As long as you have a copy of this film, you will never lose them. Nothing is more distressing than to lose words, especially when they have just come to you. That is why I always carry a big crystal. Two, in fact, in case one is a dud. For a long time I wrote in pencil. The earliest thoughts that I tried to capture are lost to time and the transience of graphite, but many more are preserved in firm big blue. My hands, too, are no longer grimy with pencil lead. I leave blue thumbprints everywhere instead. Sirius, the brightest star in the sky, is actually two. A dim white dwarf circles its blue, much brighter companion. Betelgeuse, the red giant, might be gone already. The burst of light announcing his death just hasn't reached us yet. A while ago, I wanted to find the oldest book for sale on eBay for the least amount of money. I ended up buying a 1751 copy of English philosophy for around $60. I could have used that money to buy 2 ballpoint pens on Fifth Avenue, or 600 big crystals. Sometimes, though, it is necessary to spend some time absorbing thoughts instead of laying them down. Those faded long essays are worth more to me than so many of my own $135 words. The oldest book I ever held was at a street vendor's stall in Rome, but I only had €2 in my pocket and bought a statue of Pulcinella for my girlfriend instead. On that trip, I had my first glass of wine. A woman I didn't know smiled at me while I sat outside drinking it. In New York, a random woman has never smiled at me. Twice, however, old men have told me I look cute. In New York, my girlfriend brought over Mike's Hard Lemonade the night we broke up. It tasted too sweet. I think I'm going to convert my room into a studio when I begin the filming of this film. I have already been sleeping by the window on top of a chest of drawers, so it will not disrupt me to remove the bed. I'm going to order some giant cockroaches and put one in a teacup. I'm going to compel a squirrel skull to grow legs. I'm going to do so many things and pin down the moments like beetles to foam. Hold them and admire them, if you wish, but don't lose any of these 3 slim volumes. Here's to my 21st summer. After this, it will never again be my 21st summer. On the scale of the universe, it's actually the 13,700,000,000th or so. On March 28th, 2024, I placed a cassette tape at the bottom of the drawer. After this, it will never again be the 13,700,000,000th summer. The end.